so far?
Yeah.
Having fun? I mean, it's Friday, so we could be at work, but we're here, so that's good. I consider it a bonus.
I like your title up there.
Yeah, so
You should have done the they live thing and put, procreate and all these other signs up around the room.
yeah, so just give you guys a little bit of background. This actually started out as I was like, oh, there are times where we're manipulated, and then the more that I kept reading, it was okay. So it seems a lot of the time we're being manipulated, and then I realized, well, if you just lump influence and manipulation together, it's just constant. You guys technically were manipulated because you're sitting there and listening to a guy talk, and you chose to be here. I think there's a little bit of manipulation. Some of you guys may be thinking, this sounds awfully different from the SCADA stuff, so I'm not sure what's happening. And that's cool, that's cool. Stay, it'll be good, I promise. So when I first did this, I didn't have this story. So this is we're going to jump ahead to the end, and this story will make a little bit more sense after we get through, because you're going to see how it builds. But I am the father of a 4-year-old daughter, and what most people don't realize about small children is that they evolve and they adapt very quickly. I know you guys are thinking, okay, it's cool, but what does this have to do with manipulation? We'll get there, don't worry. So this is the story of how that 4-year-old completely and utterly owned me. Like, manipulated me, had no idea what was happening until about 30 minutes later. So my daughter was a little congested recently. I was talking to my wife, and I said, okay, do we keep her home from daycare? How do we work that out? And what we didn't realize is that my daughter, who we thought was, just drinking her milk that she has in the morning, and she was doing some stuff, that she was paying attention to us. This is, you underestimate your opponent, that's normally when things go wrong. So when I get downstairs, my daughter's she's looking a little tired, she's get that look in her eyes like, I really just want to go back to sleep. I said, Lena, do you feel okay? I mean, you look like you're a little tired. I just don't feel that good. I had a little scratch to her throat. Still want to know how she pulled that one off. And so I said, all right, moment of weakness. All right, let's go back upstairs. I'll figure out how to, I'll work from home today. It's all good. And I get her upstairs. I get her set up with some breakfast and an iPad, to entertain her. And then I run out to get some medicine. My wife's still there. She's getting ready. But I was like, all right, I'm going to run to the store and get some medicine, get some decongestant, get back, give her the decongestant. 30 minutes later, she's like still finishing her breakfast, and she's bouncing around in her chair. And I look over and I'm like, oh, once again, the believing, gullible father here. She must be feeling better. The medicine must have worked. And I'm like, Lena, do you feel better? Instantly just back to this. And I was like, oh, I've been played. And so then I tell her, Lena, it's okay. You're not going to go to school right now. I just want to know if you're feeling better. Oh, yeah, I'm feeling much better. I got it. So the cautionary tale is, 1, never underestimate your opponents, and 2, even when they're training partners, really don't underestimate your opponents. So why do I say that? So normally this is where I would tell you guys about me, but this is really not about me. She's the hero of the story. This is my daughter. This was taken one morning. We were just goofing around, and she hugged my cat Mew, and I felt, I was like, oh, that's a cute picture. Let me just have a picture. So, and the reason why she's the hero, and the reason why I'm telling you guys about my 4-year-old, or now 4-year-old, is that she taught me how much we're being manipulated. And then she also provided a way for me to become more aware of when manipulations happen. And it's like, with most human traits and social engineering, it's not 100%, but there are a lot of times where I realize now, you get that the hairs in the back of your neck stand up, and it's a little more sensitive. And it's because, well, small children, they don't really have social constructs. They have what we would call a moral flexibility. They just have goals. And when they have a goal, they will go after the goal. This sounds a lot like the adversaries we fight in real life, right? They just have goals. They will use whatever tactics they can to get to them. So with that in mind, guess what? You are always being manipulated. Even look around the hotel. Look at like a vending machine, the video games, the arcade, the restaurants. Everything is designed to get you to move towards a purpose that you didn't have when you first started looking at it. If it's a vending machine, they want you to buy something. That's why they arrange it the way that they do. Everything is built around this, and the same is true with any kind of human-based attack. So when I first realized this after watching my daughter at 3, performing very basic social engineering attacks, stuff that I had been reading about, and at first I thought I was projecting these things onto her. Bad news about having only a 4-year degree in psychology is that you end up knowing all the terms, but you're not very good at using them, so you say them a lot. So I basically gave up hope. I said, well, humanity is pretty much screwed, and we really are going to lose this, and we're never going to get any better. But then I remembered something an instructor of mine said, and it was, and I'm going to paraphrase, but it was this. Every moment in life, good or bad, if you look at it with the right perspective, can be a moment of training. So we can learn from it. I said, all right, well, maybe I can learn something from this. Maybe I can make something out of this. In worst case, maybe I can make my daughter the best social engineer and physical pen tester in the world and be the proudest father that has ever lived. Either way, I figure it's a win for me. So let's take a look at how we're going to build a training program. So first, we got to start with the good guys. Now, the good guys are going to provide us with kind of simulated real-world attacks that have low risk. So in the case of my daughter, if she wins, okay, she gets like an extra piece of candy or chocolate or something that she wants. In the case of a cat or a pet, they're going to get like extra pats on the head, belly rubs, and really the last group, which is this big building off to the left here, that's advertisers. Now, we can all agree that advertisers are not quite bad guys, but I don't think we could argue that there are good guys. They have their own intended purpose for what they want us to buy something or to support their cause. And they're getting paid lots of money already. So they've got all the encouragement they need. And that's also why I put good guys in question marks. Because at times, think about it with pets, we love them, we feed them, we let them live rent-free in our house. So they've kind of won. And as you guys can see from this picture of my daughter, I've been beat down this entire day, and she is winning. I think at this point she told me, Papa, go that way, and I guarantee you that I went that way. Your training partners are going to beat you up. But that's good, because at the end of the day, all I had done was walked a few extra steps. I think I may have triggered an alert on a Fitbit or something. Who knows? It was a good day. So these are going to be the guys who are going to be our training partners. They're going to begin to build these low-risk environments. On the other side, you have the bad guys. Now, I'd like to point out that most bad guys are not going to look like a pirate holding a butter knife in his mouth, attacking a computer, but that is an awesome photo. The bad guys, they're scammers. They're what they mentioned in the last talk, phishing attacks, vishing attacks. People are going to call you on the phone. They're going to send you emails that are purposely crafted. I also include in these kind of attacks watering hole attacks because they are taking advantage of the fact that you go to well-known sites and then they've compromised a portion of that site. And once again, because I still am on the fence about them, advertising. Now, the good guys are what we're fighting against. They are the things where there's high risk. It's what we all train or hope to prevent our users and ourselves from falling for. Now that we know this, and we know that knowing is half the battle, at least anyone who was a kid in the 80s, go Joe. And we can start to look at how the scenarios that I built around my daughter and then kind of expand it out into a program and see how those map up to real world examples. So we'll start with the most basic of all attacks, trust. So we're all sitting in a room together, so we have some level of trust with each other, right? You all agree with that? Trust is the foundation for any good, really any social engineering attack, because if you don't have some level of trust for who's trying to do the attack, you're never going to fall for it. You have to have this initial level of trust. So I know what you're thinking. Well, your daughter has an obvious advantage here. You've trusted her because you've known her since the moment she was born, and that's true. But I also know a lot of her ulterior motives, so it makes it a little bit easier to detect when she's really trying to manipulate. So let's see this very simple attack. This is my daughter once again. I know what you guys are thinking. It's very cute kid. Probably gonna, probably got him wrapped around her finger. That's absolutely true. But she always asks me this question, and I don't know whether she realized it, but she had been preempting me with this question and setting me up for this attack for months before she actually tried to hit me with it. And it was a very simple question of, Papa, are you happy with me? So the answer is, well, yeah. I mean, unless she's done something truly horrible that has got me very frustrated at the time, I am very happy with her. Step one of this attack is to build trust with the parent. Okay, done that. And then, of course, the parent responds favorably, giving the opening for the attack. Well, of course I'm happy with you. And then you have the direct tell that she wants me for the action she wants me to complete. Then I will have chocolate for dinner. Now, I want to point out, some of these things are going to seem like I kind of specially crafted these. I noticed that she was doing this, and I actually started with this one. I started writing down what she had done. And this was one because when I realized there might be something to this, I said, I've got to see how these attacks evolve. And one, I didn't realize that they would fit up perfectly, so I was kind of, maybe I can take pieces of one and put it together with another, but kids are very good at this, like I said.
Dude, you're in a lot of trouble.
Oh, I'm in extremely a lot of trouble. Yeah, it's getting worse. I am adding a second to the equation, February 25th, so, when training is not hard enough, you up the difficulty. Unfortunately, I think I was did this prematurely, so. How do you defend against this? Well, step one is be cautious, right? We have to have trust. Trust is what builds civilizations. It's why we, have infrastructure. It's why we can do all these things. But we have to be cautious, right? We don't want to be distrustful, but we want to make sure that this is the real, this is something we need to trust in.
Trust.
So, good point. It's the next one. I like what you're thinking. So, we're being cautious. And then that leads to the thing we have to trust but verify. With the case of my daughter, my independent verification comes from my wife. Because, you would think as an adult man I would be able to figure out things. It's not true. I depend very heavily on her. And so when Lena asks something, sometimes she will say, but mommy said, and even if it sounds questionable, there are times where maybe I should go ask. So we want to trust people. We have to be cautious. We want to trust but verify. So let's look at how this lines up with a real world attack. And I'm sure everybody in the room is going to be very familiar with this next one. This is Dan. Dan's from IT. He's here to help. Yeah. So as I may have mentioned, I used to work for a sub 300 person company called Lanco. It's very easy to kind of know everybody in that company, especially in certain departments. And there's like 5 people that make up your entire IT staff. You know them all by name. And then at the end of last year, we were purchased by Cisco. Cisco, I think, is 77,000 worldwide. I still don't know who the IT people are at the company, and we've been part of them since January. So Dan may actually work in IT. Dan's a fairly common name. I imagine with that many employees, we have a very large infrastructure. So what is Dan going to do? Dan's going to take advantage of 2 things. He's going to build trust, and he's also going to kind of impose authority. Because, IT, they do things at the company, and they can tell you to do things, and you want to make sure you're following policy, if only so they don't hurt you. So, Dan's from IT, he's here to help. He wants to verify that my computer is fully up to date. Oh, okay. Well, Dan, I used to be a sysadmin for about 9 years. So, I'm pretty sure my computer's up to date. I click on the buttons to update things pretty regularly. Okay, cool, that's great. See, Dan's reassuring me. I've done a good thing. That's awesome. I just need you to go to this website. Of course you do. So, once again, not knowing Cisco policy, I might fall for this. I might actually go to this website. That's actually where the tail comes in. He's used this time crunch of urgency combined with the authority and kind of the trust we have for IT to do the right thing, and we fall for it. So how do we apply the tactics that we've learned in this situation? Well, the easiest one is we're all very busy at our job, right? I know I feel busy pretty much 24 hours a day at this point. So what I would say is, hey, Dan, that sounds awesome. I got my hands full right now. I'll give you a call back and we can walk through it. And then, of course, Dan's going to give me a number, and I'm going to listen to that number, and then I'm going to take it and throw it away in the trash, because I'm pretty sure there's a resource somewhere online that I can go get that from, or somebody else I can ask for. Now, if you do go to ask someone else in your company for the IT number, make sure that they talk to Dan first. And if they did, don't trust that number either, because that would be not independent verification. So, as you can see with a real-world attack, even though I'm starting with very simple examples of my daughter, real-world attacks will combine a lot of elements into one thing, and that's what makes them so hard. They're also going to be a lot more subtle. But, as you'll see, small children and everything around us will eventually start losing some of its subtlety as you become more aware. So this is the one that surprised me the most for my daughter. Developing reciprocity. Now, for most people, if you don't spend a lot of time reading psychological manuals or social engineering attacks, reciprocity is that innate human instinct to balance things out when we sense unfairness. So if somebody gives you something, you kind of feel this urge to give something back to kind of balance it out. The thing is if we're given enough time, we're really good about determining what's a fair, reciprocation. If you've got urgency, you make mistakes, you miscalculate, and then you end up giving something that doesn't seem to have a lot of value to you, but to an attacker has a lot of value. So looking at that, how does a small child build reciprocity? By doing something good that you didn't expect. So, my daughter, we still have no idea. This was actually, the picture is not from when this happened, but we have no idea where she found this vacuum cleaner. This was not at our house, and the people whose house it was said they didn't realize they had a vacuum cleaner that looked like this. So Once again, never underestimate your training opponents. And so she said, Papa, look how good I'm cleaning. Now you can see there's a pattern building here. She attacks the weakest link. It's me. So she's given the opening of giving me something unexpected. My daughter doesn't clean that often. If you see our living room on any given day, you'll know that. It's pretty much littered with toys and blankets and everything else. And then she's going to reinforce this immediately after, oh, okay, that's good. And she says, look how clean I made it. I did a good job. Well, anyone who's a parent will know if your child has done something good, no matter what their motive is, you do not want to discourage that. So I don't have to, now she's kind of got me into a corner. I have to say, well, yes, you did a good job. And then comes the inevitable demand. Or in this case, it was really more of a question. Since I did a good job, again reinforcing, can I have candy? I know that she's manipulated me, but she's also trapped me. So, like I said, this is one of those things where you don't expect children to evolve that quickly, and yet they do. This was maybe about a month and a half after the first starting to manipulate trust. She's figuring these things out because they're instinctive, and that's the problem that we have. The things that the attackers are using against us are things that are built in from an innate age at like 3 and 4. We're already behind the 8 ball, so to speak, and yet we as adults will pay thousands of dollars, if not more, for training to become better at this. So, how do you defend against a reciprocity attack? Well, do you know this person? Once again, I'm at a very big disadvantage in this case because I have literally known my daughter since the first minute of her life. And she has known me pretty much since she's been able to have long-term memory. So there's a lot of knowns between the two of us. But in many cases, it's somebody who's going to approach you that's a stranger or someone that you kind of know but you don't really know. So let that weigh into your decision. You're going to want to, you're going to feel like you need to balance it out, but you may not need to. So once you kind of determine that, it leads you to the next question. Is this more of a give than a take? So do they seem to be giving me a lot more stuff than someone I know this well should be? That should send up some red flags in the back of your head. And once you start looking for these, you'll start to see them all the time, especially when you look at advertising, because advertising is really where this plays the heaviest. And with that, my favorite sentence in the world, but wait, there's more. So I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I have insomnia at times, usually driven by the fact that my brain is turning really quickly and I keep thinking over problems that I'll probably never solve, but it keeps me up at night. And my hobby when I'm not doing this is home brewing. And those of you guys who don't brew or have never brewed, there's a lot of cleaning involved. And to clean, you need a lot of chemicals that are not harsh, but will do a good job cleaning, which leads me to OxyClean. So it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I have the TV on in the background. And for people who are not connected to commercials anymore, it's awesome because commercials were terrible things. And so in the background, OxyClean comes on. And Billy Mays was very excited, and 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm very susceptible. And he says, order now, and we'll send you 5 pounds of OxyClean. Well, anyone in their right mind says, why would I ever need 5 pounds of OxyClean? A home brewer says, 5 pounds of OxyClean. I'm listening. I can clean out about 30 carboys with that, I imagine. And so they're gonna, and I'm gonna, you know what? I don't think I need that. If I order right now, that's not good. So then they're gonna give me something unexpected. But wait, there's more. Oh, I wasn't sold before, but now you're gonna give me something else. If you order now, we'll triple your order. Wow, 15 pounds of OxyClean. I won't need to order cleaning supplies for a year at the rate that I brew. Awesome. You won't find a deal this good. Well, it's 3 o'clock in the morning on a weeknight, so you're probably right. I probably will not find a deal this good. And then comes the urgency. Can you afford to pass up this offer? No, I can't. So the moral of the story is there's still about 10 pounds of OxyClean sitting in my counters. Now I'm joking. But you see how it builds on it. It's the exact same attack. It's just got a sense of urgency behind it. And like I said, all real world attacks do this. And not to poke fun at Billy Mays, he was really good at what he did. That's the reason why I use him in this example. Understand your enemies, but appreciate the fact that they're good at their jobs. So, I've been mentioning it several times, and eventually I knew it would come. Small children are actually really good at creating urgency. It's one of the first things that they're born with. And you may be thinking, how does a child translate the urgency into an actual attack? Well, as you guys can see, It's by screaming very loudly, for Papa, and then I have no idea what happened afterwards, honestly. So, a little background on this picture. For those of you who have small children or know someone with small children, you may be familiar with the movie Frozen. It was a movie made by Disney. It was actually pretty good until you've seen it 1,000 times. My daughter loves Frozen, like all small children. But she needed to get a haircut, and she wanted to have her hair cut really short. So we took her, we got her hair cut, and then immediately after she was done, the lady said, all right, we're done. And then she said, can you give me an Elsa braid? So for those of you who may not know, Elsa is the main character in Frozen. She has a very long braided hair that goes down her shoulder like this. When the lady said that she could not do this, my daughter had this response. As a parent, there are two pressures that are being created here. One, she's very loud. Surprisingly, small children have really good lungs and really good projection. And we're in a public place. So as a parent, your job is to calm down the small child, get them to be quiet, and then hopefully, the people that will never see you again in a normal situation will never see you again and remember, I got a really rough day. So, I'm forced into immediate action by my daughter crying. I run over and I'm like, hey, what's up? What can I do? And funny enough, this is when she changed it into an attack. I think she realized, wait, if I ask for something now, he'll probably give it to me. And she calmed down immediately and said, it's okay, Papa. Oh, awesome. And I was like, okay, so you're okay, you can't have it Elsa braid. And she started to cry and I was like, but it's okay. It's okay. And then she realized there was a weakness here. Can you get it for me? She actually said it. It just pointed in a random direction, and I literally handed her an entire basket of toys they had in the small children barber shop thing. And she just started looking through them and was calm. But once again, and I had realized she manipulated me. Okay, fair enough. It was a distinct disadvantage, big changes in life. How do you get around this? Well, you follow the process. And those of you guys who may have seen what I was talking about preventing burnout, you know that I'm a big fan of process. So, develop a process, train in the process, follow the process. This is really the only way to fight urgency, because there are going to be times where someone's going to ask you for something that's going to create reciprocity. They're going to do things, and in the back of your head you're going to say, the process says that I should do X, but this is an emergency. Unfortunately, you have to follow the process. How do you follow the process? You remember lesson 1. Always follow the process. And that's actually how a lot of these attacks work. Is they get you to do something you shouldn't do. They get you to change the process, even if it's a process you built for yourself. And once they've done that, you're hooked. And now they can kind of move you in the directions they want to. And for this next one, the real world attack, a lot of us in the room are probably going to laugh. And that's okay. So all of us see this and we think to ourselves, yeah, okay, close the window. And we go about the rest of our lives. But I want you to just take a minute and think about this from a regular user standpoint. Someone who is not in security, is not familiar with computers. I'm going to go ahead and say this. Think about my mom, who was a kindergarten teacher until she retired. She freaked out a little bit when they told her she would have to submit her lesson plans to a website. My mom does not like computers. My mom sees this and her first thought is, oh no, I've done something to break the computer. And she will click on anything on here. And many of the users in the company are exactly like this. They do not want to be the person who got the company owned. So I honestly could give an entire talk just on the amazingness of this page, because everything is directed and beautifully outlined and not, there's a lot of subtlety to it. So you notice the things that are in capitals, like virus and the credit card and account, those are underlined to indicate importance. They're all capitals to indicate importance, but they're not red because they actually want you to see those things and not stop when you see them. But the entire page is in red. And then the things that are going to help you are highlighted in yellow. So your brain, because think about it, since we were really 2, we knew what a traffic light was. And we knew that red meant stop and green meant go and yellow meant, well, depending on who taught you, speed up, slow down, or caution. So, highlighted phone numbers. They can help. Now, if you stop for a second and you look at this, what's great about it is, at the very top it says, your computer may have a virus. Oh, okay, it may have a virus. All right. Once again, think about it from a regular user standpoint. Now, we know most of the users, they were probably doing something they shouldn't have been doing when this popped up. They might have been doing something legitimate, but they were probably misusing the company laptop, or at least borderline misusing the company laptop. they see this and their first instinct is panic, so they've created the urgency and then they act. In most cases, it's click on this thing or call this number, provide this information. That's really what it is. Now you guys have listened to me go through 3 examples. Started with trust, which is the foundation of everything. We moved into reciprocity, which is creating imbalances. And then we finished with kind of this urgency. And these are the core of any good social engineering attack. You put them all together and you've got something pretty lethal, even though it's not advanced. So why do I think that watching my daughter and interacting with her makes me better than all of the user training that we constantly get at our company and all of the phishing attacks they run on us and all of that? Well, for this very simple reason. I want you to take a look at this guy. And now, anybody in here practice jiu-jitsu or judo, any kind of grappling? Okay, so, and if I say this wrong, because I do not do judo, but I have done other martial arts. The guy in the white uniform he's in what's called the guard position. Okay. So what I want you to look at is, most of us leave this that we don't have any training. We see that he's on his back on the ground and we think he's vulnerable. He's losing right now. But you realize that's not the case when you take a look at his face. That guy is calm, he's relaxed, and he's very defended. And the reason why is because he's been here 1,000 times probably. He's been in this exact situation. He has trained for this moment, he's prepared for it, and he's done it by actually doing it. He's trained like he wanted to fight. The problem with most of our training scenarios that we put our users through is they are not real world attacks. They don't mimic them. They're not a mimic scenario that may be less subtle, it may be kind of specifically crafted, but it doesn't give them any kind of risk. It doesn't give them any kind of reward. It's just a scenario that we walk them through and they're not engaged with. So, that's how you build it. You create real world attacks that are low risk, that you can learn from. And you actually have to take some time when you get through one, and we'll get into that a little bit, so that you can become better at detecting when these things are happening in real malicious environments. But you want to train like you fight. And then, because we like our training partners, you want to reward your training partners. So I actually threw this in because when my wife first saw the slides, she said, they're going to think that you just, our daughter does something, asks you for something, you're like, no, haha. And I never give her anything. So she had actually pulled a successful attack in the mall of all places, in the Disney store. Once again, my daughter loves Disney. And the reason why I knew she had pulled it on me is because she asked me to do something and she'd been setting this up and I took a step. Well, think about it. The one thing we're training ourselves and our users not to do is to act before they think about something. So in this scenario, most times I realize my daughter has done something with the exception of the cautionary tale at the beginning. So if I move before I thought about what she asked me for, I lost. So sometimes I reward her. Sometimes I just tell her, that was actually really good what you did. Here's why that was good, but here's why it's also a bad thing. So encouraging your training partners, with the exception of advertisers, once again, they get paid for what they do and they're already winning the battle. I mean, they get paid millions to do what they do. So they really don't need it. Pets, they're easy. Pat them on the head, tell them you love them. They're pretty cool with that. I gave my daughter a cookie here. Most times it's just, that was really good. Let's talk about this. But remember also what you're training to fight against. It is a guy in a full tactical hoodie with a laptop, a keyboard, and 3 monitors. Once again, same place where I found the pirate photo. Can you believe it? I didn't think these things would be together, would you? Anyway, I knew I had to throw in the full tactical hoodie because, how often do you see a full tactical hoodie like that? It's got the built-in face mask. So this is really not what we're training against. We're training against people who, they look like the rest of us, right? They're very subtle. They're going to prey on the human instincts that we have, the things that we use to be friends with people, to build trust in our families, to build civilizations, and to build cities. It's the reason why we can have cons like this, because we trust and can work together with people. And that's really what they're taking advantage of, is our desire to be good humans. So we've got to learn to kind of detect when these things are happening. So I gave this talk at the Social Engineering Village, actually out in Vegas, at DEF CON, and a guy came up to me afterwards. His name was Forrest Munson, and he's from the University of California in Santa Cruz, and he said you were going in the right direction, but you stopped just short of it. Well, now, even though I know he's manipulated me after my own talk on manipulation, I had to ask the questions like, okay, well, why did I stop short? What are you talking about? And he said, at the end of the day, all of these external factors are great, and they are how we learn how to do things. But the person that you're really trying to beat and the person that is actually your worst enemy is you. Because we can talk ourselves into anything. And we can manipulate ourselves into believing anything. So that's really what we're trying to get to. We're trying to get to where we can see things as they are, and we can understand what's happening so that we can not talk ourselves into being manipulated. It's really, really deep. And I still, every time I say that, I come up with a new way of saying it, so I haven't quite figured it out. But that's the most difficult opponent. So once we've all mastered that, it should be pretty easy to tell our users how to do it, and then 10 to 15 years of training with them, and they should be ready to go. And by the time my daughter is actually old enough to be part of the company, and getting them on, someone in that company will hopefully have learned what we're trying to teach them. With that, any questions? Seriously, don't be shy. Anything. Even if you guys are like, I don't believe a word of that, you made it all up. Yeah, go on.
A piece I heard on NPR the other day, school of times, but I didn't just, I looked it up, I can't find it. Something about brain tired, sucker brain. But basically, it said how easily, because of the way we're wired, it's so easily we have a greater version of the loss, and we underestimate the gains that might happen.
Yeah, it's funny. Was it Dr.
I think that's it, yeah.
That's right. The idiot brain. Yes. Yes. So we are wired for this. Here, actually, do you guys want to think of anything? Email
Sincerity is so important.
Yes.
Once you learn to fake that.
And children are amazing at it because for them, it's not something. I mean, they are sincere. Children are very sincere, but they also realize that sincerity can. I mean, if you ever spend time around a 3-year-old. They can fake cry on command. There are actors and actresses that would kill for the ability to do that. I mean, really, they're tiny sociopaths in many ways. They haven't quite connected empathy to outside of themselves. They understand that they have emotional issues, but I've watched my daughter punch my wife, and then when my wife says, "Ow, that hurt," my daughter's like, "No." What? Well, it didn't hurt you, yes, but it hurt the person you hit. And so that's, you end up with that dynamic. But yeah, we're wired for this, and you look, I think it was back in 2004-ish, Dr. Cialdini wrote the book Influence, which covers the fact that there are really only 6 basic foundations for this. It's how do you get someone to do something? There are 6 principles. And he wrote a recent book that just came out, I want to say a month ago, called Persuasion, which is basically how little subtle things before you even make your request can increase the chances of effectiveness.
There's so many little things that with body language that happen that cue us in our brains. Well, we can trust this person.
Yeah, and that's a.
Let me give you an example. If I'm trying to sell you something, and I'm standing here like this, shoulder to shoulder with you squared up, okay? You are going to think he's an adversary, all right? That's a very accurate. And he'll try to keep his distance from me, and he won't come along with my ideas, right? That I'm trying to present to you, all right? But if in the course of talking to you, if I turn like this so that you and I are standing shoulder to shoulder, now we're just buddies talking about stuff. And in particular, let's say one of your friends or a neighbor or something were to come up and start talking, and I think he's going to screw up my deal. I'm not going to be able to get this guy to do what I want. Okay? If I can stand shoulder to shoulder with you, across from the neighbor or the friend, now it's him that's the adversary. It's us that are buddies. Okay? And you'll way more readily go along with what I'm trying to get it to do.
Yeah, and that's where the sincerity definitely plays into that, because if your demeanor or your facial, it's the same thing of the, like if I say something positive and I'm shaking my head the entire time, it sends a confusing signal to your brain. It's kind of like it's a parlor trick, really. But if you can mess with people by having a different expression and saying something that doesn't match up with it.
That deal there and so many more of them. I used to knock doors for a living, and I did that thousands of times.
And that's actually, so how Dr. Cialdini learned all of this was he basically, he realized that he wouldn't be able to study this in a lab. So he would go and he got jobs doing like sales and advertising and would learn all the secrets and go through the training. And at the end of the training, he would then disclose to them, so I'm a professor and I'm studying this, and but you guys are really good at it because you've made your living at this for decades, and at the end of it, he was thinking that he would, he's like, if there's any part of this you don't want to use because this is really your company's secret sauce, I will not use it. And he said, in every case, they were like, wait, you're the professor, but you learn stuff from us? All right, cool. And so they give it to him for free. So, now he's probably one of the most, his book is amazing. I have not had a chance to read the Persuasion one yet, but if it's like the first one, it's going to be.
You were talking about the psychology degree earlier. I guarantee you, several years knocking doors is better than any psychology.
Yeah, the thing about the psychology degree, and what's funny is this was a question asked in Psychology 101 by the first professor that I had was, how many of you are here for free therapy? And 75% of the room raised their hands. And it's a lot of people are there because they really are just trying to figure themselves out. And I think they end up staying in it long enough that they become clinical psychologists. And then they get to charge lots of money, and hopefully they figured themselves out by that point. But yeah, it is fascinating to me. Like, I don't do this actually for a living. It's just a hobby because I find people fascinating. And I find the fact that, our greatest weakness is the fact that we're just trying to be nice to each other. So, yeah. Anyway, but if there are any other questions, if you guys think of anything, I'm going to be hanging out all weekend. So come up and, talk to me. And I will say,